The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your financial advisor. Have you ever heard of retail therapy? You know, when someone uses shopping as a way to improve their mood or cope with negative emotions. A recent study from NerdWallet found 3 in 10 Americans say they've made purchases simply to improve their mood within the past 12 months. Yet 15% say they frequently spend money on things they end up regretting. So what psychological factors could be triggering this, and what can you do to break those bad spending habits? Joining me today is Cynthia Campos Delgado of Campos Wealth Management. So, what are some of the most common psychological triggers that influence our spending habits?
I think childhood experiences, for one. Either you're continuing with your parents' bad habits or maybe their lack of financial education. Also, I think sometimes when people start working or maybe moving up in their career, they start falling for the I deserve it philosophy, which, for some it's overcompensating what they felt they lacked in their childhood or being able to buy previously, and they feel empowered. So it kind of, they take away from there. That causes, I think, some reactions.
Yeah. Do you think people also maybe use it as like a coping mechanism, like retail therapy, or, oh, I'm not feeling good, so I'll go buy myself something to make me feel better?
Exactly. It's just like emotional eating. When people do emotional eating and you just kind of like mindlessly, going through what's in the stores, or you're just kind of going without really any end term. You're just kind of floating around out there. So it's your escape, really. You kind of just escape from your problems and just kind of concentrate on, oh, let me buy this, or, this is on sale, or this is what's out there. So, yeah, definitely so.
Yeah, speaking of sales, how do you think marketing and consumerism kind of impact our spending habits, especially with social media now, because there's ads on almost every platform?
That's right. And I've always said holiday spending seems to get people, when they're buying gifts without a budget, they just kind of spiral out and take on new debt without even realizing it. So sometimes people tell themselves, oh, I'm buying it because it's on special. It's on a Black Friday special or reduced price. They think they're saving money, but then they end up spending more than they intended to. And now they've overspent, or they've gone into debt, on credit cards. So that could apply, to a project you're working on, or a vacation, or redecorating things in your house. If there is no limit, there is no set amount, and you're just kind of going through, then you're easily going to go, over budget and out of budget, and you've spent more than you intended to, and now you're more in debt than you obviously intended to.
Yeah, I definitely think, especially too for younger people, it's so easy to get on TikTok or be on Instagram and see these people who look like they're your age living these lavish lives, like the influencer culture. But
that's right.
I think it's important to remember that's not real life.
Yes, I feel that, of course they say the phones hear us, right? So you barely mention you're thinking about something, or you looked up one thing, all of a sudden you're flooded with all these other options, how to buy it or where to get it. And then it's almost like the phone convinced you, oh yeah, you need this. And then here you are buying it. When you see that constantly showing up on your feeds, on your social media feeds, and then it's just, revalidating, oh yeah, I needed that, or I need this, and now it made it easy for me because it's right there. I just got to press click to buy here, and then, you've purchased it.
Yeah, especially with like Amazon and the one-day shipping.
Oh yeah.
It's so easy, especially if you're at work all day or whatever the case may be, to just grab your phone and be like, oh, I want this, I need it, and impulse buy. Let's say someone is kind of starting to notice, like, I'm realizing I'm buying a lot of stuff that I'm not even using, or that I don't need, or I'm spending outside of my budget. What are some ways that you can identify some personal spending triggers?
You need to first see, where is the money going, right? I mean, don't go by what you think, more or less. You have to go look at your checkbook, or where the money has left your pocket, see what that looks like. And then say, okay, well, am I buying it because I'm stressed? Am I buying it because I just want to escape the mundane routine of everyday life? And then all of a sudden I'm, way off in left field. Where is it that you find it's getting away from you? Other than obviously essential buying, right? I mean, you have your regular bills, but then you have choice spending. So anything that's choice spending means it's not essential, but you're choosing to do it. Some people will say, okay, well, I go to Starbucks, 7 days a week. Maybe I'm only going to do it 2 days a week. You kind of have to catch yourself. Where is that excessiveness getting away from you? And if it is late night scrolling through your phone, is because you don't want to go to sleep, or what it is that's causing you to just kind of aimlessly wander in the purchasing aisles.
How can that emotional spending impact long-term financial goals?
Oh, it can just evaporate all your savings. If you're running around with no limit, you're just, at whim of whatever you feel like buying, then nobody's leading the boat. I always say either the train drives you or you're driving the train. So if you're not in the driver's seat and making those decisions, then all of a sudden, before you know it, your savings is all eaten up, or you've racked up debt. You put things on the credit card, and then before you know it, your credit card has, a huge balance. You didn't intend it to happen, but accumulation over, several purchases, and all of a sudden you have new debt that you didn't expect to have. So it derails where your money's intended to go. If it's supposed to be for investments, if it's supposed to be for savings, you run through that. So long-term wise, it does affect you.
It can also prevent opportunities to maybe get a better job if they run like a credit report, or being able to get an apartment or a mortgage or a car.
It's a domino effect. That's right. Even your interest rate, what you're being offered, is affected when you're out of your ratios. I mean, a lot of it affects you in all kinds of ways, not just the inline, I don't have any money. But now, just like you say, if you're trying to get a better interest rate or something, then you're affected because now you have this new debt that you racked up unintendedly.
Yeah. Do you have tips for people who are living beyond their means, how they can kind of take those first steps to reframe their lifestyle?
I do. I also recommend there's a few things for free on the internet. I know the Budgetnista offers stuff, and I encourage them to, pay attention to basics. Go back to the basics of the budgeting. Once you're budgeting things, then you're like, okay, I'm choosing, I'm going to put X amount of dollars per month towards this bill, and that's it. And then you're going to look at what's essential, what's not essential. Things like, getting your nails done, going to the salon, maybe gym memberships, sometimes maybe even cable, depending on how much you need to cut. If you don't have any savings, then you definitely need to cut back any non-essentials until your savings has accumulated. And then you need to say, okay, well, I can't afford this right now. I'm going to hold off on certain things. And there's nothing wrong in that. There's no shame in getting within budget because it's helping you to say yes later on down the road to other things, bigger things.
Backing a little bit to the impulse buying, I know that this is something that I do to kind of like curb that. Like if I am looking on Amazon and I decide I want like clothes for work, or, I think I need this, instead of buying it, I'll put it like on my wish list or let it sit in the cart and give it some time. And I usually end up not even buying it, but it kind of like satisfies that need,
That you've scrolled, you've looked, you've kind of aimlessly wandered the aisles, kind of window shopping, but you haven't actually purchased it. Yeah, that is a good point.
Do you have tips for people to maintain living within their means?
I really think if they have done their homework as far as saying, I only get X amount per month, and out of that amount per month that I have, I'm only going to assign X amount to each expense, and then don't go, if you don't have any more, then if you use that allotted amount, then you're not going to keep in that category until your next month. You just have to stick to the budget. You have to first be decisive to say how much you're allowing yourself to spend in which categories, and then stick to it. Sometimes, and I don't want to call them gimmicks, but sometimes all these like big sales or closeout sales, everybody's trying to get your attention to get you to go spend, but your job is trying to figure out, okay, how do I hang on to it? not just run out there because people are having big sales or it's a holiday and everybody's, celebrating and purchasing. You're going to have to go back and just look at your numbers and stay within that. I can't say that enough. That really is everybody, regardless of their income level, needs to be conscious on the budget of what they're allowing themselves to spend in which category.
How much should people maybe be saving from their paychecks each pay period?
And that's going to depend if they're a two-income household, if they're a one-income household. That is going to depend on what, I guess, their expense ratio is, because that changes. Sometimes as you're going along, your expense ratio has come down and then you have extra money. Other times you don't. So a good goal would be 20%, but that may not be doable for a lot of people. So you're going to start at where you're at and then work on tweaking and getting better each time.
And with summer coming up, usually that's a busy time for a lot of people. The kids are out of school and there's fairs and carnivals and all of that stuff going on, music festivals. How can people maybe curb the temptation or still feel like they're doing things that are fun without breaking their budgets?
Right. One, when there's multiple functions going on, I would say pick one. Maybe, okay, there's 4 things going on, but we're going to vote. We're only going to do one. And then, of course, you're looking for coupons or days that it's cheaper, or, some of the fairs will have like bring canned goods and you get it reduced off, or unlimited rides on, if you go on a Tuesday. You're looking for any way that you can obviously make it more affordable for your family. And I wouldn't say deny yourself everything, but there's also, it's going to happen again next year or next month. There's going to be other events. So you don't have to say yes to everything all the time, every time.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure to do that.
I feel that way even like on Black Friday special. It's just everybody's competing to somehow get you to go spend your money with them.
Yeah.
And it really becomes, a tug of war. You're trying to hang on and they're trying to pull. So you have to kind of just understand what's going on and don't give in to the gimmicks and the hype and everybody's gonna be buying this and this is the newest item. Just like cell phones, for example. There's always a newer version. There's always more bells and whistles. So you're never gonna outdo it. So sometimes you just have to sit tight and just wait.
Yeah, until you're in a better position. That's so true.
That's right.
Because I remember even like back a couple years ago when Amazon Prime Days were first coming out, they were kind of like the only ones that were really pushing like those massive sales. And then it was like Walmart and Target and all these other retailers now are kind of doing their own versions online. And it's just like too much. It's like overload because there's just all these sales flashing in your face all the time and it's hard to escape it. Do you have maybe any thoughts on like why our society is such a, or maybe just our culture here in America is so based on consumerism?
I don't know. I think, what people perceive success to be, or, the famous line where they say, keeping up with the Joneses, you want to always do one up on somebody else or have more, have better. And even the comment I said earlier, sometimes you think, oh, I worked hard, or, oh, I did it, I deserve it. So, I'm going to buy it, or I should have this. And some of it comes from you didn't have it as a child, or your family maybe weren't very affluent. And so now you're like, okay, I'm buying myself, 5 pair of, shoes or whatever. So it just becomes like having more. Everything is about more, bigger and more.
How do you balance still having fun and maybe buying something nice for yourself every once in a while, within reason, of course, without letting it get out of control?
I think once you've mastered having a budget, deciding for yourself, and it's all about control. You get to control where your money leaves your pocket. So if you've decided how much you're allotting for a certain expense, you're like, okay, if let's say it's outings, we're going to go out, either out to eat or out to the movies or, out to a festival, then you already planned for that. You can allow yourself to do that. So you're not denying yourself to go, but you're not going hog wild and all of a sudden you used all the charge cards because you wanted to buy everything. So you have to find, like I was saying, either, ways where you're saving money on going to that same whether it's a different day, a time of the day, or if they have buy one, get one half price, take somebody with you and you share the expense. So I do think you should say yes to some things, but within reason. You just have to be wary and mindful of where the money's going and what you're choosing to spend it on. And then if there are any ways to save money on that event, do it. Research it and say, okay, well, I can go on Tuesday and it's cheaper, or we're going to go to the movies, but we're going to go to the matinee because it's a cheaper price than the evening price.
Yeah.
There's choices for you still.
Yeah, or even like shopping secondhand or doing staycations. I feel like we've lost that in a way. I think a lot of people thrift, but I think like when it comes to vacationing, sometimes you can have fun in your own community just as much as you would if you were going somewhere else. All right. That does it for this edition of Not Your Father's 2 Cents. Sources used in this episode will be linked in the description. If you like the show, give it a like, a follow, leave us a comment, let us know how you're doing, and feel free to share it with your family and friends so we can keep making episodes. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll meet you back here next week.